Since arriving at Tennessee, Rick Barnes has converted to the motion offense of his friend and one-time co-worker, Bob McKillop. Here you can see the similarities side by side. The offense starts with the point guard probing into the paint for a potential drive, while a big ducks in hard in the middle of the lane. If they don't get the drive or duck in, the most typical result is a ball reversal that sets up the most common action in the system, a stagger screen. The stagger is taught in a way where the offense is constantly reading the defense based on how they are being guarded. Another way into the motion staggers is this scissor set that's taken right from McKillop. The system is flexible enough where Tennessee still finds plenty of ways to get Grant Williams into the post. Here Davidson's running the same scissors, but instead spacing out for their best player Kellen Grady to dribble drive. Auburn is currently second in the country at turning teams over. The ability for them to keep that trend would be particularly important for a defense that's usually a little too foul prone. For some reason, Auburn's big men actually have more steals than the guards. Starting 5-man Chuma Okeke had 4 steals against Duke and has 10 on the season. He didn't have 10 steals last year until January 2nd. It remains to be seen if Auburn can continue turning opponents over at this rate. It's well documented that Michigan has been the best defensive team in the country. This is a graph of every game in the country played so far this season. The x-axis on the graph is points per possession allowed. You can see that Michigan has been towards the left in every game. But what's most impressive is what they've done in games against quality opponents. They are still the only team in the country to hold a top 100 team to under 0.75 points per possession. And they did it twice. The UNC performance was a bit below their defensive pace, but still under 1 point per possession. Nevada is in the middle of a 26-day stretch without a home game. This week they won at Loyola Chicago and will play at USC next on Saturday. That 26-day stretch is the longest of any team in the power rankings by at least 8 days. But don't feel too bad for the Wolfpack. Savannah State is in the middle of a 64-day stretch without a home game, the longest in the NCAA. Virginia is always one of the best defensive teams in the country, but the offense has shown positive signs this season too. They currently sit 8th in the country in adjusted offensive efficiency. The biggest difference this season is the increase in three-point attempts. 39.5% of Virginia's shots are from 3. Tony Bennett's teams have trended that way in recent years, but this season is at an all-time high. I said I would use Gonzaga's section in the power rankings to highlight a different player on their loaded roster. Last time I did Brandon Clark, so for this one, let's take a look at sharpshooter Zach Norvell. The majority of his shots have been threes this season, but he generates those threes in a variety of ways beyond just spot-ups. Gonzaga loves to ball screen, and a big reason why it's so effective is the shooting on the floor. Norvell's man tags Hachimura here to dissuade Perkins from passing to the roller, but he's too late recovering. Here's some off-ball action for Norvell that is really just supposed to loosen up the defense for a subsequent ball screen. But Norvell doesn't even need the ball screen when his man gets lost. And lastly, Norvell can shoot it off the bounce. North Dakota State switches the ball screen here as a means to avoid having to rotate, but Norvell makes them pay for the switch with a pretty tough shot. Here's a list of the leaders in post-ups per game around the country. Kansas's Udoka Azubuike sits number 1. 10.4 plays per game for Kansas end with an Azubuike post-up. The next highest player in the country is 9.3. The other notables on the list include Wisconsin's Ethan Happ Washington's Noah Dickerson, and UCF's Taco Fall. And so it shouldn't be much of a surprise that Kansas is currently number 1 in the country in post-up usage. 19.7% of Kansas's possessions end in a post-up, narrowly ahead of Oakland. Clearly, Bill Self's high-low offense is back in full force this season. So yes, Duke lost to Gonzaga on a neutral floor and yet remains number 1 in the power rankings. If we were ranking best resumes, it would be pretty hard to justify Duke at the top spot. But power rankings, at least in my opinion, are different. If Duke played Gonzaga again tomorrow, they would be around 4 or 5 point favorites in that game. They have the most talent in the country and even have the results to back it up, with total blowout wins over Indiana, San Diego State, and Kentucky, and a 6-point win against Auburn. I'm not saying Gonzaga's upset against Duke was fluky or undeserved. Gonzaga played really well, but Duke's 2-point loss in a game that came down to the wire shouldn't move the needle that much for a team that has performed at such a high level in their first 7 games.